Okay, good evening. Welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet. My name is Councillor Shantanu Rajawat. Can I welcome all of those in the audience and those watching at home? I'm the Leader of the Council, and by virtue of being Leader of the Council, I'm also Chair of the Cabinet meeting this evening. We've got quite a bit on our agenda, so hopefully you get a lot of information out of this evening's meetings. I'm joined around the table by my Cabinet colleagues who will introduce themselves as and when they speak, and we are supported around the table by officers who do not take part in the decision-making process, but are here to support should there be a requirement to do so. Firstly, welcome back from the summer. Hopefully all of you got a bit of a break, even if it was a small one, and you're ready for the next few months ahead. It's going to be a busy few months leading up to the budget in February. Just before I commence, it'd be remiss of me not to say this as Leader of the Council. We're going through some very hot weather, so those watching at home, those in the audience, please do look after yourselves, make sure you're hydrated, and look after those who are more vulnerable, your neighbours and alike. And if there's any support that the council can offer, please do make contact with us. We are here to help if need be. I'm going to move on to the first item of the agenda, which is apologies for absence. I have apologies from Councillor Sampson, Councillor Lily Bath, Councillor Ajmer Garawal, and Councillor C.R. Raza, who's invited here to witness the proceedings, but doesn't have a voting right, as does the Leader of the Opposition, Councillor Thompson, who is also here this evening. Are there any other apologies? I don't think there are any others. No. Okay. Any declarations of interest? I'll start. I think we've all received correspondence on item 7, the radical overhaul. So I'd like to declare that we've received correspondence on that. Any other declarations? Councillor Bruce. Correspondence on number 4. Yes, we have all received correspondence on number 4 as well. Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Dunn, you had your hand up?
Yes, which is number 4? Yes, okay. Sorry, correspondence on number 4, and also to declare that a member of the London cycling campaign, which have had confirmation from the monitoring officer, is not a conflict, so doesn't prejudice me giving this report, but obviously should be declared for the record.
Absolutely should. Thank you. Councillor Lambert.
Yep, I'm also a member of the Hounslow cycling campaign, and I use it for social reasons.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Any other declarations of interest? Any other declarations of communications from members? Can't see any others. Members, can I ask you to note the monitoring officer's note on interests, just for information? We then move on to agenda item 2, which are minutes of the meeting held on 11th of July. That is, by my agenda pack, page 7 onwards. I'll take them page by page. Do indicate if you've got any accuracies or matters arising. I'll take them both together. Starting at page 7, page 8, page 9, page 10, page 11, page 12, page 13, and finally page 14. Cabinet, are you happy for me to sign off the minutes as accurate? Yep. Agreed. Excellent. Thank you very much. Right, we move on to our first substantive item of the evening. That's the progression of the Consolidated Local Plan. Over to you, Councillor Bruce.
Thank you very much, Leader. Yes, this report is asking for Cabinet approval to go to a Focus 6-week Regulation 18 consultation on our approach to the next stages of our local plan. For a short bit of history on this, we have a local plan in place from 2015. Part of that process, the inspectors asked us to look at 2 specific areas of the borough. Those plans took a few years to come through. By the time that they did, inspectors had actually asked us to look again at certain aspects. Our response to this, as is laid out, we had some options A, B, C, and D. Our response to this is to say, actually, we have done a huge amount of work on all areas of the local plan, and we are now asking for feedback from residents and interested parties on our proposal to put all those aspects, those 4 volumes, together as one. That's specifically what this aspect of the process is looking at. Full council agreed to the technical withdrawal of those volumes, although they still hold material weight in terms of planning. So any developers wishing to come to Hounslow, we welcome you, but you still have to follow the obviously all the technical and legal processes, but our local plans still hold weight in terms of what we expect you to do. Need to be clear that this is very focused on, or specifically focused on, consolidating those plans, and that all interested parties, residents, groups, councillors, anyone else, will have further opportunity as part of the Regulation 19, assuming this is approved by Council, by Cabinet this evening, as part of the next stage in Regulation 19 early next year. So I just want to be clear about what we are asking, what I am asking you to approve this evening, and what will come at a future stage. I am also asking for Cabinet to approve that officers continue undertaking the work on the consolidated local plan to ensure that it is completed and in a draft form in a timely manner, ready for that future Regulation 19 consultation early next year. Thank you very much, Leader. I move the recommendations, I should say, because I don't think I said that.
You do move the recommendations. Thank you, Councillor Bruce. I will second this and reserve my right to speak on this item. It is now open for discussion and debate. Anybody like to comment on this report? I cannot see anyone indicating, so the recommendations are on page 15. 1 to 3. Yeah, 1 to 3, yeah. Can I see all those in favour? That is unanimous. Thank you very much. That is carried. We now move on to the next item, item 4 on the agenda, which is Cycleway 9, experimental traffic order. Can I highlight to members that there is a supplementary pack on this and draw your attention to that, members? And according to this, it starts on page 26. So, Councillor Dunn, over to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Catherine Dunn, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Climate, Environment and Transport. So 4 years ago, the Cabinet at the time, there have been some changes, approved plans for Cycleway 9 along Chiswick High Road, and those plans were approved and started to be built. Of course, in 2020, we hit the pandemic, which meant that there were changes. There was a stop to the building of those plans and issues with funding, particularly from Transport for London. However, we were able, with Transport for London's help, to put in place an experimental traffic management order for a temporary scheme along Chiswick High Road, a temporary cycle lane, which of course had some differences to the original plans that had been made. This was put in more along the carriageway rather than taking space from pavement, and included the kind of pop-up cycle lanes that you will be used to seeing now around London with the wands, and that was in place for some time. At one point, we then reviewed that, and because we decided that we wanted to make some changes to improve it, a second experimental traffic order was put in place, included various improvements such as some additional bus lanes, bus shelters, and other changes. This decision today is now about whether to make that experimental traffic order permanent. And my recommendation to you, Cabinet, is that we should make that permanent. I am, however, suggesting some additional improvements that can be made in order to further improve things. But the bulk of the decision is around making that scheme permanent. The reasons for this, and I won't go through them all, they are, of course, in the report, but the key headlines are that cycling has increased. We've seen a 47% increase in cycling since 2021. Collisions along the routes have decreased. When we look at other things, bus journey times, we have a mixed picture. The improvements that were made under the latest experimental traffic order did improve bus journey times. So in some instances, they are back to what they were before, pre-Cycleway 9. Some of them, there's still a slightly longer, but we think we can make more improvements. This report does recommend removal of the bus gate at Acton Lane. Although that has improved journey times, we are concerned about the effects that it has had elsewhere on the network. We have had lots of representations from people saying that that has been the case, and that the bus gate has caused problems. And we have listened to that, and we are recommending removal of the bus gate. But in order to mitigate that, when it comes to bus journey times, I'm recommending improvements elsewhere. So that will be implementation of further stretches of bus lane along the high road. That would, of course, need to be subject to a separate traffic management order, and obviously subject to funding and another cabinet decision. But that is, along with then some further package of improvements that I'm recommending be delegated to officers. That is what I'm recommending to you today.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Lambert, you seconding this? You reserving a right?
I'll second it and retain my
Reserve your right.
possibility of saying something else.
Fine. Thank you, Councillor Lambert. So it's been moved and seconded. It's now open for discussion and debate. Councillor Sheen.
Thank you very much, Leader, and thank you, Councillor Dunn, for bringing forward this report, a very necessary report, and I very much welcome it. I grew up in the countryside. I was riding bikes on country lanes from pretty much as soon as I could walk. I certainly didn't have a pathological fear of cycling. However, I jest there, but it is serious. When I moved to London, I didn't get on a bike again. I was actually very afraid to cycle on London's roads. And one of my peers from university, she became a journalist at the Times. I read many years later. I read about a horrific cycle accident that she was in, and it caused life-changing injuries. And these things have happened time and time again on London's roads. It's only through initiatives like Cycleway 9 that we can make London's roads safe for cyclists. And I am proud to say that I have conquered my fear now due to the cycling measures that have been brought in. And I am now comfortable riding a bike in London, but I wouldn't have been had we not brought in these measures.
Thank you, Councillor Sheen. Anybody else? Councillor Thompson.
I was going to make cryptic reference to your outing on BBC News today, but you got there before me, so I'll put that to one side. But where to start? And obviously, I don't want to ask him my welcome here and say too much, but obviously, it's fair to say this has not been without controversy, and I think it's important, maybe just for the record and for the minutes, that we are aware, and it's in the report, and it's also within the Transport for London detailed consultation documents that sort of sits underneath this, that there is much public misgiving about the cycle lane. I think the aspiration that you articulated to be a listening council is really, really important. I know we discussed consultation a bit later on, and listening doesn't mean we have to take on board what people are saying. I fully accept that. As you said in your interview, I will mention it. This is not a referendum, but I think it's fair to say that there has not been, to this point in time, massive buy-in in terms of many of the alleged or the claimed benefits. I won't go through some of the correspondence that you've all received today. You'll know that there are other people who will question some of the evidence and the data. And I must admit, data and evidence and statistics and Excel documents isn't my forte, so I'll leave that for the people. But there is an argument that perhaps actually when you take away the times when the scheme has been in operation, or the times when it's been dug up and rearranged and the rest of it, that maybe collisions have increased. That bus times, well, most of the time you're fairly stationary anyway on Chiswick High Road. So the idea of it changing either one way or the other is a bit moot. But I think in terms of the consultation, I think it's fair to mention, Councillor Dunn mentioned the floating islands. Again, they're not without controversy. I think even Transport for London, the Mayor of London said in March that he wants to review them in light of all the comments that he's received from many groups representing various disabled and partially sighted and many other groups who have serious misgivings about them and fear that they make them feel uncertain and hesitant to cross or even catch public transport, which can't be ideal. Just to finish off then, in terms of the feedback and the consultation, the data, okay, it's there. Perception is important. So it's not my ward, but it was my ward for 20 years. And this process started just towards the end of my time. And I actually thought, my gut feeling then was it's a lot of money for not particularly a lot of benefit. And I still keep that view somewhere in my head. But many people, and all these figures are, I won't go through them one by one and give you percentages, but 2/3 of people who responded, and most of these were local people, not people represented via sort of websites and sort of campaigning groups and so on, did believe that congestion has worsened, that they think the scheme should be changed. And I'm not sure what's proposed within there is perhaps is sufficient. Many people thought that it hadn't made a lot of difference to them. In fact, a lot of people actually said in the survey that it sort of almost put them off wanting to cycle at times, which is rather strange and paradoxical. Traders, and I think we can't forget the traders on the high road, didn't think perhaps the majority it had a positive impact, made deliveries more difficult. Customers are concerned about loss of parking. So there is another side to this. And all I would say is that before making a decision, I just think it's really important that we are confident that the data is what is claimed in terms of collision, bus times, pollution, and all the rest of it. If you're happy with that, obviously, I understand where you're coming from. I think there are people out there who haven't been convinced about it. So I say that there's probably another time and a place to go into the detail in terms of taking these things apart. And I say other people have provided that information to you. But I would just say that, a listening council, needs to perhaps even tonight take on board and respond to the results of that consultation process, and perhaps be a bit more willing there than we have been in the past to accept that we didn't quite get things right at various points. And my final point is, I think from day one, I think those of us who live there and travel cycling on public transport or as motorists have realised that the bus gate was a bit of a mistake, and I'm delighted that's finally recognised. I think we're uncertain as to what the extra proposals are. I know that has come as a later date in terms of traffic management orders. We had Chiswick councillors had a briefing session last week, and it was very sort of officers were hesitant to tell us what these bus gates were, where they might be, whether they actually might end up putting even more traffic, because there is an issue onto Wellesley Road and Stile Hall and all the other roads that are, again, fairly solid in a way that I don't think they used to be back in the day. So there's a bigger picture. I don't think I'd sit here tonight and say pull it out, because I think that would be another waste of money. So as I said at the start, I wouldn't have built it in the first place, but I think I would be questioning, and I think residents, many residents in Chiswick, many support it. I used it at the weekend, which actually was the first time, all the way to Hammersmith, down to Wetherspoons and back, and it was very straightforward, very fine. But there is that hesitancy, isn't there, when you see people trying to cross in ways that still haven't quite got into our psyche. That was a very pleasant Sunday afternoon. It was a gentle ride. There weren't many people speeding and all the rest of it. But there are other times when it feels a bit threatening, and there are concerns. I take on board your point about the cycling. I think many parts of London are better for cycling in terms of what's happened. Whether this was a good idea in the first place, I know not. But I say, do please before you make your decision tonight, I suppose I'm asking Councillor Dunn to reassure us that you're totally confident in terms of things like bus times, collisions, air quality, displacement. That's not particularly mentioned here, that whether it's put more cars onto surrounding roads and all the rest of it, whether you're happy that actually it was worth it in the first place. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Anybody else? Councillor Bruce.
Thank you very much. I think, Councillor Thompson, those are very fair, many very fair comments actually about the the current situation. It's good to hear you've used it recently. I also have used it recently, and again, I think, like others sitting around the room, I'm not the most confident of cyclists, but it is something that we as leaders in our communities need to show, some willingness to step outside slightly. But also, I would say that we need to be putting in measures where we're going to feel safer, and enabling residents who, like us, are unsure about things, are feeling safe or safer as well. I think it's that leadership that this council has shown, and it's not been popular. You're absolutely right, Councillor Thompson, by everybody. It has caused significant angst among many over in Chiswick. We accept that. We would be, completely ridiculous to say otherwise. Change is hard, and leading change is especially hard when it's so significant as this. But cycling, walking, public transport, different modes of moving around our city are going to be absolutely vital moving into the next few years, the next 10 or 20 years. I certainly don't want my children, who are 8, 5 and 5, in 20 and 30 years saying, what did you do about the climate, the traffic, the transport, the issues that are affecting us significantly now? And my answer to be, well, nothing. We didn't do anything as a council. We stood still. We allowed cars to carry on as they did. And we didn't support other modes of transport. This is what this is doing, and we're encouraging people to find alternative ways, and feeling confident about those alternative ways, and making changes, as Councillor Dunn has expressed already this evening, making changes where there are issues with what we're suggesting. We haven't got it right all the way through. I've been on the cabinet the whole time, and I take as much responsibility as anyone for that. But I do think this is the right way to move forward. I do think this is the right approach, and I absolutely support these proposals.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Councillor Lambert.
She'll get round to second it. I just come back from a week in Vienna, and Vienna is a terrible place for cycling because it's got hills, unlike in Chiswick or in the rest of Hounslow mostly. There is cycling infrastructure everywhere. People of all ages, of all sexes, of all races. Not a lot of races in Vienna, but lots of races. And cycling is a normal way of getting around. And it's becoming like that in Hounslow, and the quicker it gets more widespread, the better for all of us.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. I can't see anyone else indicating. Councillor Dunn, do you want to sum up?
Yes, thank you, Leader. Yes, so I appreciate everyone's comments. Thank you all very much. Where to start? I mean, am I convinced on the data? Yes. I mean, we have reviewed the data, and we do think it's robust, and that was extremely important for us in making this decision today, was to make sure that the data is robust. Now, you can still have different interpretations of data, and people will have their different interpretations of it. But our analysis is that it does show that it's the right thing to do. And it's really important to get right. The big point about this is for cyclist safety, and not every cycle lane is safe. I was knocked off my bike by a car on a cycle lane 10 weeks ago. And that has caused massive problems for me. So not every cycle lane is safe, which is why it's really important to get this one right. And I think we are doing the right thing here. Where we have, you talked about displacement, and I think we acknowledge there has been some of that, and that's one of the reasons why we're looking to remove the bus gate and look for other measures. So there is some stuff in the report about where we would want to put in additional stretches of bus lane. There was then a further suite of improvements which it hasn't gone into detailed in the report, and of course but they would be smaller things, that not so big. And I take on board what you say about the bus stop bypasses. I mean, bus stop bypasses are designed to reduce conflict between cyclists and pedestrians who are waiting to board a bus, because the alternative is that you have the cycle lane going straight through the bus stop, and then you really do have people stepping off a bus onto a cycle lane. So the point of the bus stop bypass is you take the cycle lane behind the bus stop, so people getting on and off the bus in a safe place. They do still have to cross the cycle lane, of course, and we can look up anything we can do to improve those crossing points. But I think it is what's recommended. It is the best design that's out there to try and reduce those conflicts. But of course, if there is a review, we will take on board any recommendations that come out of that.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. It's been moved and seconded. So the recommendations on this report are on page 28 over to page 29, 1 to 5. Can I see all those in favour? Okay, that's unanimous. That's carried. Thank you very much, everyone. Right, we move on to agenda item 5, the Climate Emergency Annual Update Report, 3rd edition. Back over to Councillor Dunn with some good news, I believe.
It's all good news
all
tonight.
good news,
But thank you very much. Yes, so this is our Climate Emergency Annual Update Report. So just to provide the background, as members will know, as many people listening will know, in 2019, this council declared a climate emergency, and then we developed and put into place our Climate Emergency Action Plan, with a target of reducing the carbon emissions of the council to a net zero by 2030. And in our corporate plan for this term, we have put in a target of reducing those emissions from that 2019 baseline by 50% by 2026. This is a very ambitious target. We know that, but we think it's the right thing to do. Whether we reach it or not, I can't say 100% certain, but I know that we know what we have to do, and we have plans in place to do it. We also have plans to try to obtain the funding that we will need to do it, which remains our biggest barrier to achieving that target. But this annual update gives the latest carbon footprint for the council itself. So that's the emissions that come from the direct activities of the council and its subsidiaries, its wholly owned companies, the Lambton Group. So for 2022-23, our carbon footprint was 65,150 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalents. This represents a 10% reduction since 2018-19, which is our baseline year, and an 8% reduction since last year, since 2021-22. So it shows you that we are increasing the rate at which we're able to reduce our carbon emissions. We don't rest on our laurels there. We also seek to influence the reduction of the carbon footprint for the whole borough, something which we don't have direct control over because that includes our residents and our businesses. But again, we are pleased to see that there has been an 8% reduction in the carbon footprint for the borough since 2019. They work to a slightly different timescale and data set than the council. Now that's interesting. We have seen that emissions did go up after the COVID-19 pandemic, but the overall trajectory is still going down. So we hope that measures that we're putting in place, including things like encouraging and facilitating people to partake in active travel, will help to bring those emissions down.
Thank you, Councillor Dunn. Councillor Sheen, you seconding?
I am indeed seconding, and I'm very happy to speak to this. So I want to start by thanking Councillor Dunn for the tremendous amount of work she has put in on this project since the very beginning of declaring a climate emergency, and also thanking all the officers that have worked with Councillor Dunn and across the council, across all departments, for the work that has gone into this, because it really does cut across everything we do. And it's been, it's been a phenomenal effort. This is the start. It's not the end. In global terms, it may be a drop in a very rapidly rising ocean, but we have to do our bit. We absolutely have to do our bit. And I think this report sets out in very positive terms how we have made a solid start on that. And as the report speaks to, I'm very pleased to say that our public realm is supporting the ambitions of the climate emergency and the work that we've done so far. I mean, we can talk about the number of trees we've planted, for example, over 8,000 trees planted in the last year. Now, this isn't carbon offsetting. We're planting those trees anyway. It's not going to take off a single element of carbon from our targets, but it's working in tandem with those objectives of lowering our carbon emissions so that we can build a greener borough and play our part nationally, locally and globally towards a greener society. And again, in terms of the funding that we're putting into our parks and open spaces, increasing the biodiversity of our borough, that natural recovery is also very important, part and parcel with this as well. And it's I think it goes to show how much of this relies on everything working together, and both greening the borough whilst also at the same time working hard to make sure the grey elements of what we do are greened as well, and the carbon emissions are taken out of that. So thanks, Councillor Dunn, for bringing this forward. I think an excellent start.
Thank you, Councillor Sheen. It's been moved and seconded. It's now open for discussion and debate. Anybody like to say anything on this report? Can't see anyone indicating. Yeah, just to add to what Councillor Sheen said, really good news, right trajectory, lots of work to be done. And what this kind of says to me, being the money man, is that actually we're very successful in bidding for projects because we've got a clear plan. But obviously, my ask is always of government to step up further with sustainable funding for net zero in the long term, because that will make a big difference and make it a lot easier for us not to have to bid as much, spend as much time bidding and actually doing more of the core business that we're doing so well. So absolutely echo Councillor Sheen's congratulations to you, Councillor Dunn, and also all the teams that have been working across the council and with our partners as well on this. So I can't see anyone else on this. So the recommendation is on page 124 here. Can I see all those in favour? That is agreed. Excellent. Right, we then move on to agenda item 6, the development of health and social care integration in Hounslow. Councillor Lambert, over to you.
Thank you, Leader. I'm Guy Lambert. I'm the lead member for Highways, Recycling and Health Integration. And this is about health and social care integration. Like the rest of the country, health and care services are experiencing a range of challenges. We're seeing rising demand, a growing and aging population, and increasing prevalence of long-term conditions. Workforce constraints, a well-documented national issue, also present a significant risk in Hounslow. And despite this increasing demand and complexity, the council and NHS partners have to deliver financial savings. We must find new ways to tackle these challenges, and we know residents want the same, and our corporate plan commits to work with the NHS to integrate health and social care, ensuring services are designed around residents. Bringing together resources, capability and ambition to help realise a more effective and efficient model of care for residents and communities In other words, doing integration well will deliver better outcomes and value for our residents. So with this report, I'm seeking Cabinet's approval to establish a health and social care integration programme and proceed with the initial phase of work. Cabinet is also asked to approve funding for £120,000 from the One Hounslow Transformation Reserve. This is a very difficult subject that has caused great trouble for central government as well as councils over the years. And this is a really serious attempt to start making some progress. So I commend that to the Cabinet.
Thank you, Councillor Lambert. Councillor Samia Chowdhury would like to second.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Samia Chowdhury, Cabinet Member for Adult Social Care, Public Health and Transformation. I'm very happy to second this report and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. It's now open for discussion. Councillor Thompson.
Just to wish this well. I think ever since I've been on the council, we've spoken about integration. I don't know how much we've spent over my 20 odd years in terms of consultants and projects and plans and great and wonderful things that are meant to deliver this. And don't get me wrong, I know over many years a lot has happened and improvements have been made. But as you said, Councillor Lambert, there's so much more to be done. And if this, in the big scheme of things, relatively small amount of money helps to kickstart and move us further down that journey to the holy grail of this integrated system that we all desperately need, then fully behind it. And I wish the project and all the officers working on this, both here and on the health service side, all the very best and all the support we can give them.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Anybody else? Yeah, you both Councillor Lambert and Councillor Thompson, you're absolutely right. We've been doing this for a while. It comes up on the agenda every now and then, and I think a lot of this is about the relationships. So, a new health system, Councillor Lambert's attending a lot of the meetings, and there seems to be a willingness from NHS partners to come forward with us on this journey, which is really good. So hopefully it does bear fruit very soon. Councillor, you seconded it. Did you want to say anything at this point? You reserved your right. No, you're right. Did you want to sum up, Councillor Lambert?
I was just going to say I'd rather do it on the back of an envelope, but I don't think that would work. We need some expert help with this thing, which is a very horny problem that we're engaging with.
Absolutely. Okay, so the recommendations for this report are on page 148, 11 to 14. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much. Right, we then move on to one of our key commitments. Well, all of them are key commitments, but something that was very close to my heart, the radical overhaul of consultation and engagement. That's agenda item 7 on the agenda. And I'll hand over to you, Councillor Gurwal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm Councillor Shivraj Gurwal, Cabinet Member for Communities and Equalities. And this report is about the radical overhaul consultations which we are having in our borough. In May 2022, after the May elections, we as a new administration had a new corporate plan. We were committed to transforming and improving how we engage with the communities and partners. We need to better involve them in our decision making, ensuring they know their views have shaped decisions and empower them to make their own decisions wherever possible. Our vision is every resident, business partner, and community organizations should be aware and be able to shape decisions and about the issues which matter to them. We will deliver on this ambition through the radical overhaul consultation and engagement program. This report details the program's progress and the recommendations of the outlined business case for its design phase. The program began this year earlier, and its discovery plans will end this month. It has included desk research and conversations and surveys with staff members, communities, and partners. It has so far heard more than 500 people and builds of what we are already being told through previous recent engagement exercises. Based on the insight gained, it is proposed that we co-design with our communities an ambitious and fully enhanced engagement model which best aligns with our vision of engagement and addresses the identified areas for development. A couple of important things I like to make at this stage. The first is that the council already does much good engagement and is continually improving. We have achieved many things to be proud of over the recent years, such as hearing from more than 1,500 people to shape a strategy of equality, diversity, and inclusion, and 2,000 young people for children and young people plan, a new system of ward walks, community insight reports, and well-attended area forums have increased participation and insight into local issues. A range of new partnerships and forums have been established, particularly around communities with protected characteristics, giving them greater voice, greater consistencies, accountability, communications around consultations, and the recent rollout of a new digital consultation platform. The second point I would like to stress is that we are not going back to square one or disregarding an engagement reviews the council has carried out in the past. In particular, in 2020, review by the Center of Local Economic Strategies provided valuable insight, much of which we have sought to build into how we engage with people. But much has changed since we had 2 years of COVID, a cost of living crisis, various societies, and political upheavals which have impacted our borough. The radical overhaul is building on the strong foundation of previous learning, but also challenging ourselves on what good engagement means for Hounslow today and how it needs to support delivery of our current corporation plan. I'm sure you'll agree that with me that in investing to improve how we engage is well worth the cost and will yield a wide range of benefits for the council, our communities, and us as members, which will be of enormous value. So I would ask the cabinet to approve the proposed approach to co-design the new operation model for engagement as part of radical overall consultation and engagement program in section 4. Approve the allocation budget for 110,000 from One Hounslow. Delegate authority to the assistant chief executive to take or delegate the operational steps required. Note the discovery phase activity in findings and recommendations are detailed in the design phase outline business case in Appendix A. So I would ask the cabinet to approve this plan, please.
Thank you, Councillor Gurwal. Councillor Bruce, you seconding?
Yes, very happy to second, Leader. I fully endorse all that Councillor Garrywell has said. I think this is a very good report and outlines the council's commitment to, and this cabinet and this administration's commitment to our engagement processes and continuous improvement in our engagement processes. I agree with what Councillor Garrywell said. There is a lot of good that happens already in terms of our conversations with residents. There are lots of residents who come with very positive things that they can say about us, and lots of residents who come with some negative stuff. And we do listen to that all and take it on board and respond, I think, certainly from my perspective and all that I've seen, in an appropriate way. We don't always agree. And engagement and consultation isn't necessarily always agreeing with what is being said by certain aspects, but we do need to take account of it, and we do need to accept it and respond to it and state the case for change or difference or whatever we're doing. And I think we do that very well now, but there are clear improvements that we can continue to make in this space, making sure people's understanding and perception of the council and what the council can do and can't do, and the balance that we have to strike between various aspects of our roles and our responsibilities here, and why if we do one thing we might not be able to do another. And we accept that we cannot always do everything that everybody wants all the time, but we want people to feel, and that's at the heart of this, we want people to feel that they can say that. They can say when they like something, they can say when they want something to continue and to stay, and they can tell us when we're getting stuff wrong and they feel that we need to change. We need to look at the way we gather that data. We need to go out into all spheres of our community, because it often can be very, very similar people from similar backgrounds, I would say the same people often, who are telling us things, both positive and negative. And we want to hear from everybody. We want to hear from young people, from what's often called hard to reach. I mean, by their very nature, they're hard to reach. They're hard to reach, and so they're hard to reach. And we want to reach out and make sure that they're able to communicate with us and tell us what they think. So thank you, Shivraj. Thank you, officers. And I certainly second this report.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. It's now open to discussion and debate. Anybody? Councillor Thompson.
Just to say, I thought it was a very positive and very honest outline business case. I think as both cabinet members have said, there's recognition in here, isn't there? And we've all encountered it when there is good consultation, when we get it right. But it's also honest, and it says we're not always consistent and we don't always get it right. And I think we'd all recognise that as members. I think one thing particularly that I was really thought was a good thing I was delighted to see it in here, is that as part of the consultation process, to have a think about the role of members. And I think, as it says, I'm just reading out the words in front of me, we do have expertise and knowledge, and we know our area as well, all of us. But sometimes I think in the process, we're not quite clear, or maybe the organisation isn't quite clear. And again, the words are here that how we express our roles, how we are supported, and how we can be best utilised. I was talking to one of the directors around this table only recently about sort of within that directorate of a couple of examples where once, on a couple of occasions, it was really done very, very well, that we were brought in early on. We knew what, I think I like to think we added value to the process. We gave information that perhaps officers weren't aware of and they could take on board. At other times it comes to us as if it's already been decided, and we've just been told what's going to happen, and that's not really consultation, is it? And I think residents also, particularly, it annoys us. I think residents also feel that, I understand you can't start with a blank piece of paper. You have to go through the options. You have to work out what's doable and not doable, and often there are unrealistic expectations out there. But if we can get this right, and particularly, I'm keen to see how this develops, and in particular how we can, as an organisation, better use is it 51 of us, 52 councillors, 62? Oh, God. First week back at school, as I'm sure Councillor Bruce goes, the brain doesn't work properly. Yeah, how you can better make use of all of us who have so much to offer. And I look forward to perhaps also thinking, and I know area committees have been improved and enhanced. Maybe there's more we can do there as well. So I look forward to seeing how, again, this progresses. And please, there's only a few of us on my side, but again, do tap into that. 'Cause obviously, in an opposition role, you do have a slightly different perspective on how things operate. So I think we have maybe a view to bring to the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Thompson. Anybody else indicating on this? Councillor Garrawal, do you want to sum up on this?
Chair, thank you very much for your comments, Peter, taken on board. And Chair, I would like you to approve this report. Thank you.
There we go. Okay, so the recommendations on this are on page 160, 1 to 4. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Thank you very much. Right. Now to my set of reports. I'm afraid you're going to have to listen to me for a little while. So the first one is agenda item 8, the delivery plan monitoring. So a lot of the reports that we've heard today come out of the delivery plan, but it's also important to have visibility of how we're progressing the delivery plan as a whole. That is incredibly important for Cabinet, but also for scrutiny as well, who also receive these reports. Of particular note in this, obviously, there is the progress on the programmes and projects within the People, Place, Capital portfolio. The new addition to the delivery plan is a digital portfolio. It's such a big piece of work, and it crosses across the council that rather than keeping it in one portfolio, having a portfolio of its own made sense. So I am proposing to Cabinet that we create that as a portfolio in its own right, so that that can also be monitored for progress as well. I wasn't going to say much more than that, but I'm happy to move the recommendations. Councillor Dunn, are you going to second?
I'll second the report and reserve my right to speak.
It's been moved and seconded. It's open for discussion. Councillor Bruce.
If if anyone's looked closely at the appendices, you will have noticed there are 4 areas of red within it. Sadly, all of those fall within my portfolio. So I perhaps should apologise somewhat. No, but in honesty, to make comment on them, I think it could be argued they should be red or they could be amber. I'm happy to accept that they are red. Purely down to delivery timescale, nothing more. I'm sure it can't have escaped anyone's attention how difficult construction is with interest rates and inflation, etc., causing very complex problems in development, the development world at the moment, and it's merely just bottoming out that and trying to take that forward as quickly as possible. So it's the time lag rather than any significant problems behind the scenes that are causing those. I anticipate they will be amber and hopefully green very, very shortly.
Thank you, Councillor Bruce. Anyone else? And I suppose from my perspective, just to take on your point, Councillor Bruce, I don't necessarily see red as a bad thing. Even though it is red, it's got a connotation to it. It's important that we've got visibility and a clear understanding of why things aren't necessarily progressing the way we maybe would have wanted. And there are always reasons that transparency is really, really important. I wouldn't expect a report to be all amber or all green. That would worry me more if there weren't some in red. And fully accept the explanation that you've given. And that narrative is really important as we see iterations of this report going forward. So, but thank you for clarifying. Can't see anyone else indicating. So the recommendations on, on this report are on page 192, 1 and 2. Can I see all those in favour? That's carried. Thank you very much. Right. Next item is agenda item 9, the council performance metrics. So again, whilst there's visibility on the delivery plan, it's also very important to have visibility on the performance measures. Again, I discuss these with cabinet members on a quarterly basis. The chief exec discusses them with exec directors also on a quarterly basis. So there is always visibility, and we bring that all together in this report, and it's incredibly important. The particular thing that I'd like to highlight in this report is in the supplementary documents, the state of the borough. It's presented to cabinet in this report as a static, however, it will be online, and it's really exciting bit of fun. What was the word we used? Whiz bang, generally speaking, because it kind of looks beyond just data and beyond the council to the borough and actually what the data tells us about the borough, and it gives us great insight. And once it is live on the website, I can't remember what it's going live. It's soon. Today. Oh, it's going live today. Do use it because it is interactive. You can use it. You can manipulate the data to see down to ward level or borough-wide as well. And it will give you a good idea of what we're seeing as part of our decision-making process. And it's that transparency that's really, really exciting. This is a great innovation. And I really would encourage cabinet members and councillors and members of the public to use this alongside our existing data hub, which has a wealth of information. It's got most things that I'm thinking about. I could probably get information on from the data hub, so really worth using. So with that, I do move the report.
Yes, I'll second the report, and just to echo that excitement around that new state of the borough dashboard, and to encourage people to use it. We're committed to being transparent as a council, and increasing people's confidence in the decisions that we're making, and showing them how we're making the decisions, what the data is that we're using. So as Councillor Rajawat has said, I think it's a really important step, and one that hopefully people will be able to use. But obviously, please do give us feedback and let us know how you find it.
And I'd just like to pay tribute to the officers internally who have done a lot of work on this to get it off the ground, as well as the data hub before that as well. So thank you to them. Right, I've lost the recommendations. Where are they?
Oh, sorry, it happened.
Completely lost them. Recommendations are 24.
So there you go. Oh, that's a summary. Oh, it's just one recommendation.
Oh, yeah, it's one recommendation on 250. Can I see all of those in favour? God, I had a moment there. Thank you. That's carried. Right. Almost final item of the evening is agenda item 10, the financial monitoring update for quarter one. This is a regular report, comes to Cabinet quarterly, again, part of that transparency that we just described, talking about the financial position. Obviously, we are, now that the summer is over, heading straight into the budget setting process and all that that entails. So this gives us a good understanding of where we are. There are also, and I would draw Cabinet's attention to some specific recommendations in terms of reserves, school financing, the capital programme, property procurement. I think there are some more. No, that's all of them that Cabinet need to be aware of as part of this report. So I formally move the report.
And I second the report and reserve my right to speak.
Okay, good. Any questions, comments? Councillor Thompson.
Just a very quick one. You won't be surprised if I mention Lambton Leisure. Obviously, this again seems to come every time we have this report. It's always there, isn't it? And it'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. So Councillor Lambert's explained in the past why we are where we are, what's going on. There's always talk about works taking place. I'm just grateful if someone give me an update on when we think we'll be out of the situation, when we seem to have to be constantly, for reasons I understand, topping up the pot.
So that's currently going through an internal process with myself as the shareholder interest with officers. So there will be a report coming back to Cabinet. I don't know when it is, actually. Soon.
November.
Yeah, around November, but it may well slip to January if there's still work to be done. So around that time, there'll be a further update. But if you want an update outside of that, very happy to, if you email me or email Niall, we'll provide you an update, no problem. Okay, anyone else on this? No. Okay, the recommendations are on page 279 and 280 A to Q. Can I see all those in favour? That is carried. Excellent. Thank you very much. I've not had any referrals from any other committees, and I've not had any urgent business. Date of the next meeting is Tuesday, the 17th of October, 2023. Would someone like to move exclusion of press and public? Councillor Chowdhury, is that seconded? I'll second it. That agreed. Exclusion of press and public.
Agreed.
Yeah, just give us a second. We'll turn off the live stream.